All right, so welcome to another fantastic Vienna Rose event. In fact, tonight it's a conversation. And what are we going to be discussing? Well, we're going to be discussing something that is paramount, incredibly important to all of us. Why? Because we all want to live longer. It's all about longevity. And who do we have with us? Well, two esteemed professionals, doctors, and so much more that, let's see, Dan Buettner, Mr. Blue Zone himself. That's right, Mr. Blue Zone himself. And Dr. Richard Isaacson. Pardon me, my dyslexia got the best of me, so bear with me.
That may be protective.
Yeah, he's going to sharpen your brain.
Good,
Okay,
yeah.
there we go. Maybe you can cure it.
Okay. Wait, is your hand bigger than your face? No, don't do that. Don't
I'm
do
not
that.
falling for that. You almost had me. All right, gentlemen, let's give a little sneak peek about what we're going to discuss tonight, but let's not give away too much. Dan, why don't you start?
Well, I'm going to tell people you can live to 90, but it doesn't do much good to live to 90 unless your brain's sharp. And Dr. Isaacson is going to tell us exactly how to do that.
Yep, and 4 out of every 10 cases of dementia may be preventable if that person does everything right. And we're going to talk about what those things are that people can do
that better than
today.
anybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
Get your pen and paper out, take mental notes, physical notes, whatever it takes. And as we like to say, strap in and get ready for another fantastic Vienna Rose conversation. Gentlemen, I can't wait.
Looking forward.
Thank you, Doc.
We'll see you when
Dan.
you're 100.
So let's get into tonight, a conversation on longevity. We're going to bring in a gentleman who's 168 years old. And he's going to teach you how to be 106 years old. Just joking. Dan is amazing. I mean, this gentleman is, well, let me get into it. He is a Vienna Rose member, a friend, a National Geographic explorer, an Emmy Award-winning producer, and a 5-time New York Times best-selling author. He's best known for identifying the world's blue zones, which are regions where people live the longest, healthiest lives, and sharing their secrets for living well. As the founder of Blue Zones, Dan has helped communities across the U.S. transform their well-being by applying the principles of longevity found in these remarkable places. His Blue Zone projects have improved the health of more than 10 million Americans, reducing obesity rates and lowering healthcare costs in more than a dozen cities around the country. Dan's Netflix series, how many people have seen his Netflix series? How many of you were with us when Dan gave the conversation on Blue Zones before it was on Netflix? 5 months before Dan gave that conversation here. So Dan's Netflix series, Live to 100, Secrets of the Blue Zones, earned 6 Emmy nominations and won 3. He's a record-setting endurance cyclist with 3 Guinness World Records, and he continues to inspire audiences worldwide to eat wisely, more naturally, and find purpose every day. You know the $6 million man? Well, now you know he was bionic. He was the bionic man. This is the bionic Dan. It gives me a lot of pleasure to welcome the one and only Dan Buettner.
Thanks for the nice introduction, but I'm only 29. Well, we're going to have some fun tonight. So yeah, I spend most of my time writing and talking about longevity. But tonight we're going to talk about longevity through the prism of the brain. So longevity hackers will tell you that you can live to 120 or maybe even 150. They're wrong. The chances of anybody in this room making it to 100 is only about 2%. Not very good. That's the bad news. The good news, and this is a brand new paper out in the journal Nature, the average maximum life expectancy for humans living in the developed world, that means us, is about 93. 2 extra years for women, 2 fewer years for men. So That's about 20 years more than life expectancy in the United States right now. So you all have the power to live an extra 20 years. But what good is that extra 20 years if your brain isn't sharp? That's why I'm delighted tonight to introduce to you arguably the greatest brain expert in our country, a guy by the name of Richard Isaacson. Richard is a neurologist and expert in Alzheimer's. He finished medical school in 6 years. He was done at 23, and he started the very first prevention clinic in the United States, and there's like a 10-year waiting list to get in. So we're lucky to have him tonight. So Richard, let's get into it.
Appreciate
Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Nice.
Isn't it? I think we have a full house.
Good-looking crowd.
There must be nothing good on
go.
TV tonight. I don't know. So jumping right into it,
Sure.
what are our chances of developing dementia or Alzheimer's?
So at the age of 85, roughly, just about 50% of people will be at the highest risk for dementia, meaning the bad proteins. We all know our cholesterol tests, right? Okay, HDLs, LDLs, the good, the bad, sort of, that's kind of right. Our triglycerides. The brain proteins that build up in someone 85, we're talking close to 50% of people, once you hit that age, are going to be kind of on the road to dementia. And the good news here is that if we start early, even if we do start in the 80s or 70s or 60s or 50s or 40s or 30s or 20s and beyond, we can get people off the road to dementia and live not just longer, but live better. And that's what I'm excited to talk to you all about tonight.
And in terms of percentages, what percentage of Alzheimer's or dementia is preventable?
Yeah, so I would say up to 50% of dementia cases may be preventable. So when I went to medical school eons ago, and I say I'm 29.9 and 9, and I just keep adding 0.9s. But anyway, when I went to medical school eons ago, there was no treatments for Alzheimer's. That's when I started medical school. My Uncle Bob, my great Uncle Bob, was diagnosed when I was in high school, and there were no treatments. And that's when I started this journey. And to talk about the words Alzheimer's and prevention in the same sentence, that was crazy. That was heresy. But today, we can do something about it. And we have a motto, promise not to overpromise. There's a lot we can do, but there are certain people that can do everything right and still get Alzheimer's. And that's why I'm driven every single day to keep on pushing forward so I can help those people. But 50%, about 45% of people can get off the road to Alzheimer's, and that's hopeful, that's empowering.
You know, there's efforts to raise billions of dollars for a cure. Is there any, if you get Alzheimer's, is there a cure? Is there a pharmaceutical emerging on the scientific horizon?
Yeah, so when someone has a heart attack or a stroke, do they just start having heart disease that day? Well, no, it built up over a long period of time. My friend Adam, remember, he was diagnosed with high cholesterol. He was 29 years old. Well, was he going to have a heart attack or stroke then? No. But in 10, 20, 30 years, the plaque, the atherosclerosis, the hardening of the arteries, however you say it, it builds up silently in the blood vessels. And that's the same exact thing that happens silently in the brain. And our group is trying to find that cholesterol test for the brain, that we can find this out early, understand what those markers are, and get, again, people off the road to Alzheimer's disease. So, you know, we got to start early, and that's how we think about things.
So we hear about dementia and we hear about full-blown Alzheimer's. What's the difference? And indeed, are there different kinds of Alzheimer's?
Yeah. The way that I look at the term dementia, it's an umbrella term. So people can have different reasons why their brain ages, okay? Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. So about 70% of the time, a person has cognitive decline that leads to the point where they can no longer take care of themselves. That's Alzheimer's disease. But about 30% of the time, it's not. And there are conditions called vascular dementia, which are vascular problems, blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, that mess up the blood vessels in the brain and cause cognitive decline. There's also something called dementia with Lewy body dementia. I'm not sure if you've heard that. Robin Williams had that, other people that are notable. That's somewhere where it looks like Parkinson's disease, but the dementia comes first and then Parkinson's disease comes later, where someone has a tremor and they're slow and hard to move. There's also something called frontotemporal dementia. And frontotemporal dementia is a tough one. And I hate all these conditions. I hate Alzheimer's, but frontotemporal dementia is really hard. And that's where the front part of the brain doesn't work and people have behavior changes. And that usually happens in the person's 60s. So, I believe today, in 2025, soon to be 2026, the majority of cases of Alzheimer's may be preventable. And when it comes to Lewy body and some others, we've made progress, but we still have a little bit more to go.
So, and 50% of us are going to get one or more of these types of, if you're in American, but what if we do everything right? Mm-hmm. What does the percentage go down to 10, 20, 30, or zero perhaps?
I think the answer here is imprecise because different people have different genes. And while genes are not our destiny, we can win the tug of war against our genes, meaning we can do something to make our genes work better. Mrs. Smith, she has a gene. She goes through the perimenopause transition where estrogen drops and that amyloid starts building up. And in that woman, if that woman doesn't get hormone replacement therapy, she's going to be at higher risk. So Mrs. Smith, with these genes, is going to need therapies A, B, and C. And for her, I know why she's on the road and I can get her off. Mr. Jones, he's confusing. He has a different set of genes that I don't fully understand. He has high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. That's hard, and he's trying his best. But he's a tougher case because the genes are silent. I don't know what I'm up against. So I think the challenge here is that different people are at different relative levels of risk, and each individual person needs a different targeted plan. And today we'll try to talk to you a little bit about what everyone in here can do today, or maybe let's start tomorrow. We can drink alcohol today. We can go to sleep late today. Actually, learning something new and socializing and having a sense of purpose, we can all have that tonight. So we can start right now. But tomorrow...
This is good for your brain.
This is great for your brain. Absolutely.
And the same things that work for preventing dementia also help keep our brain sharp of the variety, like I don't lose my keys, or I'm at an age I can hide my own Easter eggs. But can we forestall common sort of forgetfulness?
Yeah, this is a great point. So as we age, our brains age too. Imagine that. But there are certain parts of aging that are, I would kind of say, I don't love to say normal, but I would say expected as we age. You got that word. It's on the tip of your tongue. Oh, that good-looking guy. Oh, he's got a beard. Oh, he's a doctor to really cool people. Oh, Dr. Wolf. Oh, right, Wolf. That's on the tip of my tongue, right? That's okay. As long as you remember the person's name and it comes back to you later, that's a sign that's relative to normal aging. If it takes you longer to remember something, longer to learn something, that's okay. That's associated with with normal aging. But when it comes to losing your keys, losing your cell phone, getting lost while driving, having trouble with the finances, repeating the same story over and over, some behavioral changes, problems with sleep, more anxiety, irritability, those can be more related to dementia.
So let's talk about what we can do to prevent it, because at the end of this talk, I want everybody to be able to walk away and cut their chance of dementia in half. Can we shoot for that?
Definitely. Absolutely.
All right. No, this is serious.
Absolutely. Yep.
So let's start with the optimal diet for our brain. What should we be eating if we want to keep our brain sharpest?
So I'm not a plant, and I'm not a paid spokesperson for whatever. But to be very honest, the blue zone way is the brain healthy way. And I really believe that. And I wouldn't say that. It would say that if you're here or not. We were playfully disagreeing or arguing, was it 80 to 90% plant-based, 90+% plant-based? And there's some nuance there, and I think that may depend on genes. But how do we eat? So the Mediterranean style diet. Let's start with the Mediterranean style diet because that has the most evidence in a variety of studies. So green leafy vegetables. That's probably the most powerful plant option that I have in terms of evidence that can forestall or protect against cognitive decline. Dark cocoa powder. Dark cocoa powder can help with blood pressure control. It can help with insulin resistance, meaning blood sugar regulation, and it can also help forestall memory loss. Berries. Half a cup of blueberries or strawberries, 2 to 3 times a week. And you don't have to eat it every day because it has a long, what's called a half-life. So if you eat it, the brain antioxidants called anthocyanins or whatever they're called, basically last in the system. A half a cup of blueberries or strawberries 2 to 3 times a week in the Nurses' Health Study published just over a decade ago reduced a person's risk of dementia, delayed it by 2 years just by eating berries alone. So that's kind of the way I think about things. Also, different people with different genes need a different plan. And the concept of precision nutrition is something that I'm very interested about. I think one day we're going to be able to all go see our doctors, get a little blood test, genetic test and some other blood tests, and the blood test results is going to be able to tell you what you may eat to thrive versus what, if you do eat, you maybe won't survive. And that's this construct called precision nutrition. And I actually got to speak at the first NIH-funded precision nutrition conference. And we were so excited. We were going to do all these things, and the NIH shut down. That all kind of stopped. But moving right along, I'll talk to my therapist about that. I'm not going to talk to you guys about that. Dr. Ockner, my therapist, is in the building, so thank you, Dr. Ockner. Thank you. He's not only a
doctor and your therapist.
I know. I got my doctor. I got my primary care doctor, my therapist. I'm not going to tell you who else is here, but that's a different discussion. My lawyer. Wait a minute. My lawyer's here too. Sarah. That's amazing. Wow. Okay. Sorry. Hometown crowd. Laughing, humor is good for the brain. There we go. I got the same 9 jokes, everybody. The laughter's going to stop soon. Sorry.
So I'll just add another dimension to the diet. So these blue zones, these 5 areas where people are living statistically longest, one of them is Ikaria. And we interviewed almost every single person on the entire island using the same survey the National Institutes on Aging uses for dementia, and found only 3 very mild cases on the entire island, so almost no dementia. So you ask yourself, what are they eating that is associated with this, these very low rates of dementia and Alzheimer's? Well, if you want to know what a 100-year-old ate to live to be 100, you have to know what they were eating as a little girl and middle-aged and newly retired and lately. You can't just ask them what they're eating now. So we aggregated 155 dietary surveys done in all 5 blue zones over the past 100 years. And we averaged them. We worked with Harvard. And we found that these diets are overwhelmingly high carbohydrate diets. I know we're obsessed with protein, and there's lots of Instagram content saying that we need to load up on protein to live longer, but the real diets of longevity in the world are about 2/3 complex carbohydrates. The 5 pillars of every longevity diet in the world are whole grains, rice, corn, and wheat. Greens, so we overlap there completely, especially greens. There's about 80 types of greens in blue zones. The kind of shit we squirt glyphosate on or weed whack, they make them into beautiful pies. Tubers like sweet potatoes. Okinawa, about 70% of their dietary intake until 1980 came from purple sweet potatoes. That was it. Nuts as a snack, and then beans. Beans seem to be the superfood. If you're eating a cup of beans a day, it's worth about 4 extra years of life expectancy. I don't know if there is a cognitive benefit for it.
Well, there's a ton of overlap, and I think also it's not just about what you eat, it's about when you eat it and how you eat. And actually, something I learned from Dan, I'm a fanboy over here. I follow this guy. I'm not on social media, but if I had social media 20 years ago, I would have followed this guy. But I read one of your studies, actually, about probably a decade ago, 12 years ago, and I learned the concept of Hari Hachibu. Have you heard of Hari Hachibu? And I think I learned this from you. I think I read it in an article. Eat until you're only 80% full. Is that correct?
That's right.
I'm quoting the guy. He's sitting next to me. So, and I think the key here is, once you eat and then you stop, then you feel what you've eaten. There's like a little bit of a delay. And eating less. Our whole world, mostly our country, just eats too much food. Like, eat less food. The ELF diet, eat less food. I think that's helpful for brain health. That's certainly been a key.
What do you think of these brain superfoods that are marketed to us, or brain supplements or powders? Do you believe in any of them?
So first, I have nothing to disclose. I don't take any funding from pharmaceutical companies, supplement companies, vitamin companies. If I did, it would be great because I would have paid off my student loans before 22 freaking years. So I'm still bitter about that. Dr. Rocker and I will talk about in our session on Thursday. And, student loan payments. I guess what I would say is I'm cautious about using the term superfoods for brain health because I don't exactly know what a superfood is. I don't exactly know what the definition should be. I do think that there are certain vitamins and supplements that may be helpful, but I always want to suggest that we eat those vitamins and nutrients from the actual food. So for example, 25%, so 1 out of every 4 people in this room has a gene called ApoE4, the 4 variant. And if anyone's done 23andMe, you can go online, it'll say I have 0 ApoE4s or 1 or 2, and then this dapper looking neurologist when he was young and they did hair and makeup, we didn't have hair and makeup backstage, a video will pop out on 23andMe and it'll tell you about your risk. Well, if there's someone here that has an ApoE4 variant, it's okay, breathe. Omega-3 fatty acids can help with that. Exercise on a regular basis can help with that. The Mediterranean style diet preferentially helps with that. If you have an ApoE4 variant, less alcohol, don't smoke. There are certain genes that kind of have to make you live a certain way of life in order to negate or neutralize the negative effect of that gene. So to me, if someone isn't eating fatty fish, like trout, mackerel, herring, albacore, tuna, wild salmon, sardines, then maybe taking an omega-3 supplement may be for you. Talk to your doctor. We can also do a blood test. So that's what we do. We do a blood test to look at omega-3 levels, and if they're low, we give. The other vitamins and supplements, I have the very great fortune of working at the Atria Health and Research Institute, which is located in Palm Beach in New York City, and we have a really small group of patients, and they get this level of precision care, and we look at all these things. So we look at the nutrient levels, we look at vitamin D levels, we look at homocysteine levels. Homocysteine is an amino acid in the blood. Mine is actually high. I take a B complex vitamin. Well, why do I take a B complex vitamin? Dr. Wolf thinks that B complex vitamins don't work if you read his website. As I read all his blog posts, I follow him on the
Dr.
gram.
Wolf, must raise your hand here.
Dr.
Wolf, shout out.
He's getting lots of shout outs tonight.
He's also my doctor, by the way.
Which is
Probably everybody's.
He's probably everybody's doctor. So B complex vitamins. Only if a person has elevated homocysteine can a person take B complex vitamins and lower their risk of cognitive decline, memory loss specifically, and brain shrinkage. You can take all the B vitamins you want. If your homocysteine is normal, it ain't gonna do anything in terms of slowing cognitive decline. So this is this concept where, it's like precision medicine. Each individual needs to be on a little bit of a different plan. And at our clinic, we can do these blood tests. We are trying to do this and democratize access with free software online, where one day we'll be integrating blood tests. So I think, this is a complicated topic, but that's probably the main group of things that we think about.
Mansplain it to me, okay? For those of us out here who can't wait 5 years to get into your clinic, is there any supplements we might ought to take that stack the deck in favor of better brain health? Or should we just stay away from them until we find out what our doctor knows about our ApoE4?
I'm really cautious about one size fits all medicine or vitamins or supplements. I don't have anything against vitamins or supplements. I have my little 7-day thing, and I do the thing, and I do magnesium and my D, and I'm 60% of people in Miami actually, based on the study I saw, are vitamin D deficient. So that's interesting. If you haven't checked your vitamin D, I think that's important. By the way, bone health, muscle strength, grip strength, super important for brain health. If you haven't had a DEXA scan and had your bone density checked, women for sure, men too, probably age 50 and above, maybe starting in your 40s. Calcium may be important. I do a little calcium calculator online. Again, I'm a brain doctor. Why am I talking about calcium? Because bone health and grip strength portend a better or worse prognosis when it comes to cognitive decline as we age. So I, for example, I eat what I thought had enough calcium, but when I did the thing, I don't. So I take a calcium tablet every day. My bone health is decent, but not perfect. Strength training can build muscle mass. and having adequate nutrition around that. So, it's hard for me to be pinned down and just say, you should take this and you should take that, or everyone should take this whole stack of pills. It's complicated.
I'm going to add my 2 cents. I can tell you in the blue zones, these people are living an extra 10 years over Americans, reaching age 100 at 15 times the rates we are. They're not taking any pills or any supplements or any superfoods, nor are they ever running down to Costa Rica for stem cells. And there was a giant meta-analysis done in Europe that followed about 300,000 people. Half of them took supplements regularly, the other half of them never took supplements. And the group that never took supplements actually had lower mortality. In other words, they had a higher life expectancy than the supplement takers. So the supplement industry doesn't like me. But it sounds we're kind of on the same page about if your doctor says you need this, take it. Otherwise, caution's the word of the day.
And checking levels. How many people in here see a preventative health doctor? Okay. Everyone in here have a primary care doctor. Okay, great. And I think sometimes there's a difference. I believe, and I've said this, we live in a sick care system, not a healthcare system. So I started the first Alzheimer's prevention clinic in the United States back in 2013. Every time I build someone to try to reduce their risk of Alzheimer's, I got 28 cents on the dollar back because I didn't have a code. The guy didn't have memory loss or didn't have a problem. If someone has a problem, we get paid for it as a doctor. But we don't have a problem when you're trying to be proactive, preventive healthcare. And that's why I work in a multidisciplinary practice where we have preventive medicine, internal medicine, atria. And to me, that's how we have to do things, because it's not just about brain health, it's about body health. And you have to be your own advocate and you have to seek this care out. And not every doctor that you're going to talk to out there is going to even be able to have these conversations with you.
So in preparation for this talk, I went to the internet, and I was looking for the #1 driver of dementia in the United States that you could do something about. Mm-hmm. And it said hearing loss. Yeah. Is that right?
It is, yeah. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. So in 2024, the Lancet Commission came out with a paper that said that 45% of cases of dementia may be preventable based on 14 modifiable risk factors. So 14 things that anyone in here today can do
to
reduce their risk.
Smoking, depression, physical inactivity, obesity, optimal diet, diabetes, alcohol abuse, who knows what that is, you're defining it, traumatic brain injury, and hormone disruption. We can talk about that in a minute. And then hearing loss, which is at the top of the
And hearing loss, believe it or not, 8% of cases of dementia are attributable to hearing loss. Right? You know how long I fought with my mom for about hearing aids? There was a reason for it. Okay? When you can't hear, you disengage.
So what's the trigger? What's the trigger that says, I need a hearing aid?
Well, I think the trigger should be anyone with AirPods, nothing to disclose. I wish I took money from Apple. I wish I bought Apple stock. I wish I did a lot of things to pay my student loans. But if you have earpods, you can do a hearing test right now, today. And when should we start this? In our 40s or 50s, not in our 60s. And if you're 60s and 70s, please. And if you have hearing loss, go see an audiologist. There's now hearing aids that are over the counter. There's really no excuse. Hearing aids are now small, so it's not a vanity thing anymore. Grow your hair long. Get a wig, guys. It's okay. Just treat hearing loss, and that may prevent 8% of dementia cases. I also want to see if anyone noticed anything. Dan just read that list. What wasn't on that list? Diet and nutrition. The Lancet Commission.
Well, it's because we talked about it.
Well, we talked about, no, but it's not in the Lancet Commission.
Oh.
Believe it or not. The Lancet Commission has not yet included nutrition in their modifiable risk factors. Why? Because nutrition research is hard, and Alzheimer's and dementia and separating out the two and all these nutrition research studies is really complicated to do. So at this moment, nutrition hasn't even been put in there. Once that's in, we're going to be way over 50% are preventable.
How about these sort of puzzles and brain games that get marketed? Do any of those work at Dwayne?
Yeah,
Or learning a new language, or
so there's a
dancing the salsa?
big distinction here. So you can do all the Sudoku you want. You're just going to get better at Sudoku. It's that one thing where you get better and you do this, and that's fine if you want to get better at Sudoku. Oh, you're devastated. I'm sorry. I have a therapist, Chris, 215. What's your phone number? Okay. Learning something new, a new language, a musical instrument, learning a musical instrument midlife onward can actually delay cognitive decline. Having a sense of purpose, staying engaged in life, socialization, again, things like we're doing tonight. Crossword puzzles, if you enjoyed them, okay. I don't know how stimulating it is, but I think if you enjoy it, do it. But learning something new, having a spillover effect, journaling, there's just a lot of things that do have evidence, but others have weaker evidence.
You've developed a website, I think with the National Institutes on Health, called retainyourbrain.com. Now, can that help?
Yeah, so when I left Cornell back in 2021, so COVID days, we had a 4.5-year waiting list to come see us. And the person that I saw right before I left was on the waiting list since 2017, which is it's not right. It's not okay. And again, our healthcare system is broken. We're going to try to fix it. But we applied to the NIH. We got a research grant from the NIH to create a virtual neurologist in your pocket. And this was before AI was cool. Okay, but basically we simulated the Alzheimer's prevention clinic experience. So anyone today can go on their cell phone, it's all free, retainyourbrain.com, and you sign up, you talk about yourself, you put in your individual risk factors, you get to take some cognitive games and assessments, and the software will tell you what to do based on the evidence. And it will text message you and send emails, and you'll basically have a relationship with software, not in that weird AI like Grok, open source, whatever the heck they do kind of way, but you'll have a relationship where the software will get to know you and tell you what to do to protect your brain health over time. Within the coming months, we hope to kind of integrate some at-home, there's a research study, you'll have to sign up for it, but you do a finger prick test, and we can try to, what we're trying to do again, develop the cholesterol test for the brain, not Theranos, I promise. It's not 1 drop, it's 9 drops, and tomorrow at the Society for Neuroscience meeting, our group will actually be presenting research that shows that when you do all these things, these lifestyle-based things, you can not just improve cognitive health, but also improve blood markers that are related to Alzheimer's pathology. So retainyourbrain.com, again, it's totally free, and it's our way to scale or democratize access to Alzheimer's prevention care. And we showed in an NIH-funded study that anyone today can lower their Alzheimer's risk by 6% in only 6 months in our randomized controlled trial that we'll be publishing soon.
And what other program gives you 6% lower dementia chances?
And we should charge more because I could have paid off my student loans.
Wait,
what's the membership fee here? How much do I have to charge? Okay.
So what are the triggers? If you're noticing something weird in yourself or in a loved one, what should the trigger be? I need help. And if you indeed develop Alzheimer's, is there hope?
Yeah. So I think the first thing any person in here should do, if they're worried about themselves or their loved one having something that may suggest Alzheimer's, the first thing we should do is breathe. Okay, Alzheimer's is scary. Alzheimer's back in the day is not the Alzheimer's today. They're different diseases. We can diagnose early, we can get a person on a targeted plan, and we can do something about it. Again, promise not to overpromise. We don't have a magic cure. When someone has had Alzheimer's dementia, it's where they can't talk and they can't interact, that disease started in their brain 20 to 30 years, silently, 20 to 30 years before symptoms. So if symptoms are just starting, or if something is different, talk to your doctor. Why? Something like a low B12 level, vitamin B12 level, thyroid dysfunction, some viruses. There's all sorts of things that can mimic hormone, like for example, hormones. The black box, we should actually have a round of applause because the black box warning on hormone replacement therapy has finally been taken off, so that's great. Brain fog. Women during the perimenopause, women have been treated so unfairly. It is just so not right. For 20-something years, this black box warning has been on these hormone replacement therapy things, and it's like caused this hysteria. Brain fog is a brain disease. They think of it as a woman disease. It's a neurological disease because as the hormones shift, the brain has a harder time functioning. Why does a woman during the perimenopause transition, why do they sweat at night? Because their hormones are off, right? The endocrine system is off. They can't regulate temperature. And if someone has brain fog, if someone has cognitive trouble, talk to your doctor. Get a blood assessment from hormones to vitamins to whatever else, and just have an open conversation because there's many things a person can do.
Final question, then we'll go to your questions. What is the biggest myth or the biggest misconception most people have when it comes to dementia or Alzheimer's? Or longevity hack that most pisses you off?
Oh, what longevity hack grinds my gears the most? There's a few. I don't know. I think that everyone out there is looking for the magic pill or the magic drug or the magic injection or the magic whatever, right? You go to the compounding pharmacy down the block. You go to, South America and you get whatever stem cell, whatever, or the fancy exosome in a vial from who knows where, and you don't know what's in it. I think everyone is looking for like those magic things. And I guess this is what I would say. Some of those magic things may actually work, but it's like a drop in the bucket. If you're not exercising, if you're not eating right, if you're not sleeping, if you're not having stress management, if you're like burning the candle at both ends, you can exercise all you want, right? That's going to prevent Alzheimer's? Yeah, not if you're not sleeping. Because when you sleep, that's when the garbage gets taken out. The amyloid, that sticky protein that builds up in the brain of a person with Alzheimer's, loosens up with exercise. Slows the buildup with healthy nutrition. But during sleep, during deep sleep, that's when that amyloid plaque, the trash, gets taken out. You need to live in balance. And I think if someone isn't living in balance and doing all the things and wants to think that they want to go to some magic place to get the magic thing to make everything good and pure and everything go away, I think that's the myth. And, GLP-1s, right? GLP-1s, the injectables, yeah, they may have some real interesting promise with brain disease, but not at the doses that I see used out there, and not when people are losing muscle mass, and not when people are, not minding their numbers. So I think when people are looking for a magic bullet or a magic cure, think about the drop in the ocean kind of comparison and get your kind of house in order first.
Totally agree. I do need to ask one last question because we all came from an open bar. How about alcohol? Can we drink and stay sharp, or we have to be teetotalers?
Yeah. Okay, I struggle with it. See, I can't drink. I get headaches, so it's like perfect. Like, it's awesome. So I'll give the answer that I think is accurate, but I also want to give the answer that my mom taught me, everything in moderation. So different people with different genes, I believe, and I think the data supports, can handle different amounts of alcohol to have, minimal to no effects on the brain. 1 to 2% of the population has ApoE44, 2 copies of the ApoE4 variant. Okay, 1 to 2% of the population. To me, I believe that there is, no safe amount of alcohol that a person should have if they have those 2 genes. That being said, if you have a large meal at 4 or 5 or 6 early bird special, right, South Florida, it's off season. That's how you get in without the wait anyway. Eating early, having alcohol at least 4 or 5 hours or more before bed, because that way it doesn't mess up sleep. A half a glass to a glass of wine with a large meal several hours before bed. If you're already well hydrated, is that really going to do too much? Well, no, but you are drinking calories and it's carbs and whatever else, but it's not going to do too much. But drinking 2 glasses of wine 5 times a week, right before bed, you fall asleep, you feel great, but you don't feel great because your sleep is disrupted and then the garbage can't get taken out. So, toxic effects, this affects, I'm dancing around it because I don't have a perfect answer, because I don't know your biology and that's what I need to know to give an answer. But sorry, less is more.
Well, I'll drink to that. All right, now your question. Pablo's got the microphone here.
State your name.
Gerta. Very impressive talk. Thank you for that. Do you think Alzheimer will be less common now that the hormonal replacement therapy is back in practice?
Ooh, what a great question. This is the first time I've gotten this question, so that's great. So will hormone replacement therapy, the fears and the worries surrounding it, will that like reduce Alzheimer's cases? Yes. First time I've asked this, but I would say yes. So number one, 2 out of every 3 brains affected by Alzheimer's are women's brains. And we used to say, we don't know why. Women live longer than men, right? No, it's because of biological differences and other differences. Actually, our friend Maria Shriver, happy birthday, just had a big birthday party recently. We were on the backstage of a Dr. Oz show. Now he runs Medicare. Wow, the world has changed. She elbowed me like kind of briskly. I kind of hurt. And she said, Isaacson, go find out why women have whatever. And we literally launched a multi-year study. And we found out that women, as the estrogen dropped, if they had that gene, that's when the amyloid took off. And the women that were on hormone replacement therapy had preserved brain size, less amyloid. But then I would call the OBGYN, the GYN doctors, hey, it's Dr. Isaac, how you doing? Alzheimer's prevention clinic. Alzheimer prevention, what? Like, that didn't exist. Dr. Resnick, good old colleague of mine, when he heard I was opening this prevention clinic, he was like, what, Alzheimer's? You can't prevent Alzheimer's. GYNs don't think we can prevent Alzheimer's. So it's taken 10 years for me to be able to have conversations with GYN doctors and primary care doctors about hormone replacement therapy, and now the doctors are answering the phones. And that's the difference. So yes, I think that there's going to be a shift, and I think that hormone replacement therapy, even though there are risks and benefits we all have to discuss, we use patches and we use transdermal and progesterone, and have to be careful of the endometrial lining and endometrial ultrasounds. It's not like it's like a magic pill or magic concoction, but I think it's important.
Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts with us. I've got 3 specific compounds that we're being combined on. Psilocybin, ketamine. There's your thoughts to the pond.
Not that you know personally.
I don't know what you've been doing, but if you forgot the third one, it must be good. Are you offering some to me? Like, what do we got? Like chocolate bar, dark chocolate? Okay. My dealer's over there. Okay. So, psilocybin. I don't know the answer to psilocybin and Alzheimer's. I don't know. I think tryptamines is like the fancy chemical word for the active ingredient in psilocybin, I think. I think tryptamines may be brain protective. Yeah. There are certain conditions, cluster headache, PTSD. Like there's something about tryptamines that I think have promise, but I don't know how to do it in the right way. Ketamine, I'm unsure of. I don't know about Alzheimer's. I think ketamine is interesting when used in a specific, monitored setting with someone who's well trained for a variety of mental health conditions. But I think the evidence is unclear with Alzheimer's. But I'll try some if you have it. It's out. We're doing it in Rome, right?
Back here, just over here.
Sure.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to state my name because I'm so notorious for arguing.
Bring it.
I'm going to challenge you. I love the presentation. Fantastic. A little depressing, but uplifting and instructing us how to fight against this decline. But I think 90% of the people in this room are not in decline, but advancing and expanding their minds because they're following their own programs already and they're getting better and smarter.
Yeah.
And do you agree with that? How can we enhance that?
Yeah.
Well, I think the fact they've come out to see Richard tonight shows advancement. But
Yeah. Thanks. A lot of hair and makeup, boys and girls. The way that I answer that is the following. So I have this guy I saw years ago, and he came in. He was the CEO of a fancy, Italian, fashion company. He strolls in, he looks in his dapper, he's got the fancy suit. He doesn't have the suit like me with the fraying and the holes, and like I've had the suit for 20 years. Like, he comes in, he looks just, manja, right? Looking all dapper to the nines, right? And we do his blood. And he's doing everything right because he has money, he can travel the world. We do his blood, he looks terrible. His cholesterol's out to wazoo. He was skinny fat or over fat. We did the DEXA scan. He had fat built up all over his organs, his internal organs. He had white matter disease, meaning white little spots, mini strokes, silent strokes. And when we did his cognitive assessment, this guy's a CEO of a major fashion company of which I have purchased their shoes. Like, you look at his brain and you look at the processing speed, he was like in his 50s and he was processing like a 65 to 70-year-old. There was a delay in processing speed. What am I talking about? I'm talking about metabolic and vascular health. He wasn't on the road to Alzheimer's. Him in his really fancy Italian suit was on the road to vascular dementia. And guess what his mom had? In her 70s, vascular dementia. So my worry is that even though people here may look good and maybe doing the right things, until you look and until you assess and until you check, you just don't know. But yeah, I think, this is a healthier group, but I think there's almost always 3 of the 297 people that are in our research study, 1%, did the whole battery of tests, and I had nothing to tell them.
So, Millen, and I'm a long-time member of Dan Buettner fan club. That's you.
We love you.
So my question actually builds on your previous answer. If one is in one's 50s, what would be the 3 biomarkers, just 3, what are the 3 biomarkers that you'd say one should look out for? And what are the 3 habit changes, prevention, so habit changes that one should inculcate?
3? You're killing me, man. 3? Okay. If you have an Alzheimer's risk gene versus not, can I at least split it up like that? If you have a family history of Alzheimer's and you have an Alzheimer's risk gene and you're in your 50s, there's a protein in the blood that can be detected. It's called a tau protein, p-tau, T-A-U, 181. You probably haven't heard of it. There's some new tests that are kind of approved and out there, and the labs aren't very good. If you go to alzlabs.org, you can sign up and you can learn about this stuff. Again, it's research stuff, and you can learn about it. That's probably the test. Like, one day we're trying to develop the cholesterol test for the brain. That test is available now, but we're trying to develop a better version of it. p-tau 181 is going to be one of those tests. So that's the brain version. It's someone that's high risk. Otherwise, I'm gonna actually say blood pressure. Not even a blood test. You can go to your pharmacy right now, get a wrist cuff. Everyone should be checking their blood pressure. And then the other thing, God, if I had to choose one, fasting blood sugar / fasting insulin, which is a measure, which is called HOMA-IR, which is a measure of insulin resistance. Cholesterol is in there too, so that was way more than 3. If you're not at risk or at lower risk, actually I'd probably just stick with those 2, but you don't need the p-tau 181. And your other question was what you can do.
I'll take that
Yeah,
one.
why don't you do that?
I
forgot
take
the
that
question,
one.
so you can do that one.
So you asked about the 3 habits. I'm going to be disruptive here. I actually don't think habits work. Because when it comes to longevity, the only thing that works are things you're going to do regularly, almost every day for the long run. And trying to change habits, whether it's diet or exercise or supplements, they tend to get a lot of people adherence for a few weeks or months, and then people drop off. And after 2 years, you get single-digit percentage of people still doing it. The 3 things I would do to preserve not only your brain health, but also get that extra 10 years. Number 1, I would curate my immediate social circle. We know that if your 3 best friends are overweight or unhealthy, there's a 150% better chance that you'll be overweight yourself. Wow. So people you hang out with, I would make sure to have 3 friends, at least one of them, idea of recreation is pickleball or tennis or walking. I'd have a friend who cares about you on a bad day. And I'd have a vegan or vegetarian friend. I'm not saying you have to become vegan, but a friend who shows you where to find good whole plant-based food and how to prepare it yourself. Second biggest thing I would do learn how to cook at home.
Smart.
Why?
Very
Because
smart.
95 out of 100 choices when you go out to eat are meaty, fatty, cheesy, or full of ultra-processed foods. Every time you go out to eat, you consume about 300 more calories than you would if you ate at home. If you're not good at cooking, I'd say get an Instapot or a crock pot. Get a good cookbook. I've written a few of them, but there's other ones out there where you can control the portions. Tell us the name of your website, of your Instagram. What is it? Edwina Cooks. Edwina Cooks. Yeah, if you want a great place to get healthy recipes, Edwina Cooks. She's right here in the third row. And then the last thing, especially here in Miami, I don't know why we do it, but the number one exercise for longevity, and I think you'll agree with me, is walking.
Yeah.
If you can, you don't have to go pump iron. The longest lived people in the world work in gyms, running triathlons. They were taking about 10,000 steps a day, which is so easy to do in Miami. I barely get in a car here. I bike everywhere. I walk up to Whole Foods. I walk up to eat. I bike here most of the time. So I'd say those three things: get a bike, get an Instapot, and curate your group of friends. And I'll see you when you're 100.
Agree with all of those.
Dan, I gotta tell you, thank God I love my wife's cooking.
Or go over to Pablo's house for dinner.
Hey.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and I've read a lot about you, and I'm so happy that you're here tonight. I recently went to a talk by Dr. Galvin who said they're working on a vaccine so that you won't develop tau. And I wanted to ask you, how real is that, and what is the time frame? And we have Leqembi,
Yeah.
but what's coming next down the pipe for Alzheimer's?
Great. Well, thanks for the question. And what I would say is the vaccine approach to Alzheimer's is something that I believe is, I hate to say this, but a little bit missing the forest from the trees. Pathological proteins, big words, build up as a marker, a biomarker of disease. So, for example, your LDL, your bad cholesterol, as that goes up, what happens? It's a risk factor for having a heart attack or a stroke down the line. I'm not certain, this is just me talking, I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm not certain that these proteins, amyloid and tau, if you only target the proteins, that can truly prevent the whole cascade of a very complicated cascade, which becomes a neurodegenerative disease, where there's an amyloid protein and a tau protein and a GFAP protein and there's all this like protein alphabet soup, right? Anti-amyloid drugs for people that have Alzheimer's, this is a drug that you get injection and soon there'll be at-home shots, doesn't cure Alzheimer's, doesn't improve Alzheimer's, people get less worse. It slows progression. So instead of declining in 3 years, a 3 year of decline, you delay by 2 years. Or you decline by 2 years. That's a delay of 1 year. That's great. Stop the presses, right? That's good. But it doesn't fix Alzheimer's. And an anti-tau vaccine or an anti-tau approach, you know what all of us can do tonight to reduce tau? One of the most powerful things we can all do tonight, we're all going to take a shot of olive oil. Totally true. Olive oil lowers tau. So that's the way I'd rather approach this from a biological, mechanistical, available today approach that anyone can access. So I am cautiously, unclearly optimistic about the tau vaccines.
Gentlemen, we have a question from someone who I'm convinced is going to live just as long as you, Dan. He works out 7 days a week. I know this for a fact, an hour plus. Alan, go ahead. Ask a question. Perfect.
Hello, doctor.
Oh, we got the man.
Well done.
Wow. Hey, pleasure.
Like Pablo said, the laptop comes is always here in a row, but this is very special. We all want to live longer and much more with my young wife.
man.
In relation to that, because I have a young wife, we talk about sport, we talk about how we eat, how we drink. how about sex and longevity?
Okay.
It's better to stop, it's better to accelerate. What you recommend?
Well, I'll give you two data points. What about your wife, first of all? So the Max Planck Institute did a study that followed men and women who married people of different ages, and they found that men who married women 15 years younger than them lived about 11 years longer. And now we
Wow.
and sadly that doesn't work in reverse. But when it comes to sex, people over 50 who are having sex at least twice a week have about half the rate of mortality of people not getting any sex at all. So I think the lesson there is come to the vagina a lot.
Honey, I'm on my way. I'll see you shortly.
Amazing.
Hi, my name is Dara. I don't know if you know anything about this, but it's worth asking. So I recently found out that I've been exposed to very high levels of mold, specifically black and other in my unit. It's since been remediated, but I found out because I was dealing with a lot of physical symptoms, but more often it was neurological, which was really scary. Thank God nothing worse, but I want to know if you have any experience with that in terms of how does it affect me long term and the detox process, anything you can recommend. I've actually surprisingly found a lot of people in South Florida that have mold toxicity in their system, so just anything on that.
Sure. So for brain health, I'm sorry you went through all that. For brain health, we've never done testing that focuses on the inflammation cascade related to mold. So I don't have in our cohort objective evidence to truly understand the impact of mold. So I guess what I would say is, I have so much more experience with so many other things that I can't really tease it out. I think to me, the thing that I want to guard against is inflammation. So inflammation in the body and the brain are things that I believe, I don't understand the science part. You guys on this side, some of the people I know, including you, understand the science part better. But inflammation kind of like fast forwards aging, I think. Inflammaging, I think is what people have called it. And like, for example, in a person whose brain has amyloid and tau, if the inflammation is low, the tau doesn't really progress. But if the inflammation is high, it's like a forest fire. You add kindling or whatever it is, or gasoline, and the forest fire grows. So to me, my worry about a toxic exposure like that that's uncontrolled, if the inflammatory markers are high and your genetics or other medical something sets you up for something bad, then it's the interaction that causes a problem. So my suggestion would be track inflammation would be the best I could say. I don't know if you have any comments.
I don't know.
Okay.
Question to your left.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca. So I'm a functional dietitian, and it's I wouldn't say widely accepted, but accepted within my space that Alzheimer's is a type 3, is a type 3 diabetes, and is directly related to blood sugar. And so I was wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, a great question. So while I don't disagree at all that diabetes of the brain or type 3 diabetes is a good, pretty accurate description, I think Alzheimer's is so, I'll use a science word, heterogeneous, meaning like very, like there's lots of different biological causes of Alzheimer's, where a person looks like Alzheimer's at the end road, but there's different roads to Alzheimer's, and some may be on the hormone, the estrogen drop road, some may be on the metabolic road, some may be on the vascular plus ApoE gene road. So I believe that the metabolic subtype or signature is definitely a real signature. Glucose, sugar, hypometabolism, meaning low metabolism. We can do a PET scan in the brain, and the certain areas affected by Alzheimer's, basically the metabolism drops, and that's can be kind of substituted as like a diabetes type 3. So, whether you think about this in terms of, lower carbs with people that have insulin resistance, sugars, high fructose corn syrup, you want to eat more complex carbs, for example, to stop the insulin spikes. I think an important subtype is related to diabetes type 3, but I also think that any of the subtypes can worsen at a faster rate if metabolism isn't held in check. So.
I think we have time for 2 more questions. One of them is back here. State your name.
Susan Beerbragger, greatly enjoyed your talk, thank you. Any thoughts on total plasma exchange protocols for preventing and reversing?
Oh, this is longevity and brain health 101, 201, and 301. That's a 401 question. That's grad school.
Graduate level.
Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Resnick, anyone? We got a neurologist in the room. Okay, there was a study that came out within the last few years that, to be honest, was compelling. It was a specific protocol with a specific group of people that really knew what they were doing, and when you exchanged plasma, like, I'll be frank, when you hear things like this with me, and I'm a Western trained whatever, even though if there's evidence, I'm on it, I was skeptical when I first heard it. When I read the paper, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty interesting, because plasma, so you take a blood draw and you spin it, and the red blood cells drop to the bottom, and then the plasma, the clear stuff, like, that's where all the brain proteins are. Like, that's what we look, I mean, there is brain proteins and everything, but we look at the highest concentration there. So if you can, like, kind of, I don't know, filter out the bad brain proteins, like, there's plausibility there. So my lack of clarity about plasma exchange is, what is the right device? Who is doing it? How often do you need it? What are you tracking? Like, what are you monitoring pre versus post? But to my knowledge, there was a pretty strong study that suggested it. So I'm not an expert on it, so I can't comment otherwise, but my only suggestion would be, if someone is interested in that, just look into the pedigree of the person, how they did it, what machinery they're using, how they were trained. Is it following the research study, or is it something that maybe is avant-garde and maybe you want to, not participate in?
Probably better just to eat green leafy vegetables.
Green leafy vegetables is good too. Yeah.
It's cheaper.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Anna Saville. Thank you both, Ben and Richard, for everything that you do. You touched a lot on physical, but you also touched briefly on mental interaction, what I call third place, interaction on who you cross on the street. I know that Dan has done a lot on that. So, language. You briefly referenced multilingual interactions, and we know that in the past few years alone, there's been a lot of results in academia of how speaking 2 or 3 languages delays dementia. And in Miami, that is fantastic news. And so many of our fellow men here are at least functioning in 2, sometimes 3 languages. I'm 5 languages person. And I firmly believe this, and I want to know how you feel the brain is rated. And I have friends who are professors who research this full-time in minor universities, not as immense as you. Thank you so very much.
Yeah. So learning a new language and learning a new musical instrument are probably the 2, in my opinion, has the strongest evidence base to forestall, delay dementia. The other part about learning new languages, which is kind of crazy and amazing, and I've seen this when I used to practice at the University of Miami for 6 or 7 or 8 years, and Mount Sinai for a few years. People that had multiple languages, when they were affected by dementia, their language pathways were more preserved than those people that just spoke one language. So, it's all about like relative strengths and weaknesses, and if you really strengthen the language pathways, which is our way we communicate, you're not just communicating, you're interacting, you're socializing, you're staying engaged in life and staying engaged with others. So I would say language is critical. When it comes to babies that learn new languages, when multiple languages, I think that's helpful. But I do want to just call out one thing. It's hard to deduce the results here because Hispanic Americans and African Americans, as an example, are at almost twice the risk, 1.5 to 2 times the risk of non-Hispanic Americans Why? Because there's individual risk factors, individual genes, and individual vascular risk factors that compound. So while being multilingual in a Hispanic American may be protective, you're still at higher risk. So there's always a mixed picture, but yeah, more is better.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Dr. Richard, Bionic Dan, each and every one of you. And I want to encourage you all to learn a new language, learn a new instrument, eat right, be happier.
Do a shot of olive oil.
Do a shot, and thank you, Alan. Have more sex. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks so much.